My name is Marilyn Johnson. I'm Marilyn Johnson's son, and this is a statement of what my brothers and I think about her artwork. My mother's artwork takes me back to some of my earliest childhood memories. Mysterious, beautiful memories. She taught me to see the beauty in all things. Living on top of a mountain in Nepal, or downtown New York City, or in Leon, Kansas, there's beauty everywhere. As a child, I was encouraged to be outside instead of watching TV. I was encouraged to use my imagination rather than play video games. I vividly remember riding my bike cross-country, in my mind, like Magellan seeing new lands, turning the trees and fields into Spider-Man and Batman adventures, building swords and battling demons as Conan the Barbarian. I also remember sitting on the armchair as I listened to my mother's voice reading library books. I learned that visualization of the mind through spoken and written words is something that all children should have in order to foster an imagination. My imagination used to scare me. Mom would say, life would be a lot scarier if you didn't have that imagination. It still scares me sometimes, yet this fear shrouded in darkness is necessary, because without it, the brighter side of life could not be appreciated or even recognized. To me, my mom's artwork is an exquisite balance between light and dark, magic and mystery. It is a great example of a child's viewpoint, whose world is rich with wonder. I only have an eye for art, and I know my mom's artwork is historically unique and some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen.
I'm Marilyn Johnson. I'm an artist. I live in a little town called Leon. We've lived here for 38 years. We've raised 6 sons. And when my sons were children, this town was their playground, the whole town. It was wonderful looking. They were outside every spare moment of the day, no matter what season. During their grown-up years, I did 3 or 4 series of paintings of them. When they were infants, when they were children, teenagers, and young adults. About 8 years ago, after they had been out of the house for a while, I think one day I realized that I hadn't heard children's sounds for a long time, years. I hadn't heard children playing, riding their bikes down the streets, playing in the park. And I realized that they were inside their homes with their air conditioning, with their gadgets, their computers, their television, and they weren't playing outside like my sons and their friends had. Imagination. I felt like it was dying. And I decided that I needed to use my art to make a statement about that. So about 8 years ago, I tried to do something creative with the theme of board games, which my sons had played through winter months, along with their outdoor experiences. I used my sons as models in the paintings, and I worked a few years on them, finally dispensing with the idea of board games because it simply just didn't work for me. Out of that madness, 2 paintings came about, All Hallows Eve and Third Bridge, where I still use my sons as models. Finally, with 2 years I got to spend at home without working at an outside job, I was able to sort out the direction I wanted to take in my work. Imagination being the central theme. Children's games, anything my guys did as children that required imagination and wonder. I compiled a long list of their activities, and so important is that I finally abandoned using my sons as central figures. I've always loved children's art. So I began using big-headed stick people as the main images. A small clown with a childlike rendering of a horse is in each painting, maybe at times barely visible. The clown is meant to represent imagination, and I don't want to think too hard and try to explain about that. The clown has evolved from the first two paintings in Dead Man's Trail and Black Mountain, from realistic to sometimes just an outline or vague view. During this period of clarity for me, I finished another Garden of Eden, which is a series that's been important to me, but I just call this one In the Garden, with just Eve and a small man with stick arms representing the snake. Also have painted several portraits of my son's friends. Christina, who was once married to one of my sons. I've painted some children here in town and a new series of grown-up sons of mine using childlike images in the paintings. These works have been very difficult to make work, always working to keep illustration and sentimentality out of the painting, but keeping the spontaneity. Today, it's October 27, 2011. I finished Tea Party. When I felt the painting was finally resolved, I realized with a confidence that I didn't have before that the clown figure need not always be realistic or even that visible. After Tea Party, I finally went back to work on a self-portrait that I started 15 years ago. It started out 4 by 4 feet, and when I finished it, it was more like 2 by 2 feet, myself in the painting. It looks like a much younger woman, preferable to the way I look now at 66. In the background are childlike painted images of my sons when they were kids, and Peter, my husband. My sons showed me how childhood should be. I have 4 paintings now that I'm working on. And remember, that was in 2011. It's now 2014, and I have more paintings. They're nearly finished. One is King of the Mountain, Night Games, Third Bridge, and All Hallows Eve. Third Bridge will be my third bridge, and All Hallows Eve my second one in this theme. There are 10 to 15 more paintings I'd like to do for this series. We'll see. June 2012. Finished King and All Hallows. Still working on Third Bridge. Close to finishing Night Games, or I may choose to title it Man in the Moon. These paintings, like my first 2 in the series, Black Mountain and Dead Man's Trail, have been through a metamorphosis. Halfway through the painting, I started taking pictures of its development, more for my curiosity than anything else. The mystery, the ineffable process of these works of mine. There is just no words to explain how and why they evolve the way they do, except for 2 words I hope will never be used to describe the paintings: cute and sentimental. My son's imaginative games and other sources of activity were not cute nor childlike, but marvel activities taken very serious. Even quiet activities like reading, drawing, board games, puzzles were concentrated efforts in which there was no hurry to finish. At this time, I'm also working on a painting of Jubilin Pove, his Cambodian, beautiful, wonderful girlfriend, Peter with his sons, and another mother reading, which will be part of my series. I've experienced a slump, July 2012, this summer, continued to change, Man in the Moon. Finally, I realized what I needed to do. Take Wandering Clown out of that painting and also Third Bridge. I've thought about doing that for months, but was perplexed about removing this symbolic finger. It took me a year or two to come up with that idea and to abandon my use of images of my sons as central characters. It took me 2 years. Also, I didn't have the confidence to paint childlike images without the more realistic clown figure. Today, I do have the confidence to paint abstract, childlike images, actually enabling me to have more freedom with imagery and paint. I first needed my clown to help me with direction, but now I feel okay being on my own. August 2012. The idea of small clown wandering is a symbol for imagination that earnestly transforms a moment in time for playful encounters, games, adventures, for musing upon creative ideas and dreams, and for reading. Wonder to whatever excites, surprises, astonishes one's heart and soul. July 2014, I did finish Third Bridge and Moon. Peter, with Sons and Flapjacks added to the title, is almost finished. I felt like I had to rework an area that didn't please me, even though the painting is framed. I think it's important here too that I say I'm not a great painter. I have a hard time drawing. I think I'm what you would call an intuitive painter. A Walk with the Dogs on a Summer's Day is almost finished, and I have 3 more paintings in my series started, and I'm working on a portrait of a little girl and boy. Jordan, my number 2 son, was asked by me one day why these paintings, using themes from their childhood play, were rather dark and strange. And he said for him and his brothers, there was imagination in their game playing, but also a will to keep going in scary circumstances and to not give up, but keep going. That's it.